This is Chris, and this is Martha. For the past 20 years, they've lived in the Priory House, a small piece of paradise in the heart of the countryside. To them, it wouldn't be paradise unless their surroundings were buzzing with wild creatures. All are welcome at the Priory. That includes the biggest species, of which they are very proud, and the thousands of minuscule animals that abound. The only restriction, plant pests, which they know they need to control and potentially eliminate. To avoid killing the thousands of innocent creatures that support plant life, Chris and Martha never use synthetic chemicals. But any paradise, as small as it may be, will attract its opposite. The east flank of the Priory House, on the other side of the fence, is home to John's domain. John has nothing against wild animals, as long as they don't set foot in his garden. As far as he's concerned, they only have one thing in mind: to attack his flowers and vegetables. John gets upset the minute he sees the smallest pest, and he fights back in full force with synthetic chemicals, which are easy to use and terribly efficient. John knows that the poisons he uses kill as many innocent creatures as pests, but he doesn't care. Nature should serve man, not the other way around. And so, for years, the Priory Gardens have survived these two very different perspectives of nature. On a human scale, the difference may seem trifling, but in the animal world, it's often a question of life or death. One passes from paradise to hell in a matter of seconds, depending on whether one is on the organic side of the fence or the chemical side. It's 4 p.m. Martha thinks of each harvest as a gift offered to her by the plants that she sowed, a reward for the hours she spent pruning, weeding, and protecting the vegetables so they could grow in ideal conditions and good health. But the gardener who loves animals as much as she does vegetables accepts the fact that other creatures will take advantage of her produce. Voles, for example, love the deep stems of Jerusalem artichokes, but don't hinder the vegetable's development much. They produce minimal damage, especially because they are not rampant at the Priory. This is largely due to the garden's anti-vole special agents, whom Chris is just about to visit on the other side of the prairie. Meanwhile, just 80 meters away, John, the chemical neighbor, carries out an inspection of his small garden. It's a good thing he came. 2 lettuce heads are being attacked by snails or slugs. But above all, at the far end of the garden, 2 tomatoes were violently assaulted by a creature. With no formal proof, John decides that it must have been a vole. His theory is further confirmed when he spots 2 holes in the neighbouring lawn. John believes this situation requires a radical verdict: the death sentence. The punishment is extreme, considering the scope of damage to the vegetables and the danger it poses to the surrounding fauna. John decides to use poisoned seeds. Each hole he finds receives a dose of the poison. What John doesn't realize is that by not consciously burying his bait, he risks poisoning all the grain-eating birds that pass by. He also doesn't know that Chris's anti-vole defenses are also working in his favor, so the risk of full outbreak is already under control. This line of defense is located in a highly strategic position, a mere 30 meters away from John's garden, the dovecot. Chris counts 5 baby kestrels, and he's delighted. Last year, there were only 3. The danger has passed, and our future special agents can resume their nap. Time to eat. On the menu, an entire vole, divided up in appropriately sized morsels by the mother falcon and shared evenly amongst her famished young. The greatest danger they face is eating a vole that's been poisoned by one of John's blue seeds. That would kill them all. That night, one of the chicks scores big, without his mother noticing. Normally, his brothers and sisters would force him to share his haul, but Mother just returned with another vole, captured by the father falcon. Our young glutton is faced with a big problem. He succeeds, but it was a close call. He almost choked. Chris once read that a couple of kestrel falcons can consume up to several hundred voles every year. That means John's poison seeds are not only dangerous, but also unnecessary. The next morning, just around 9 a.m., John begins his regular morning rounds. Today, he's inspecting the bushes on the south side. Nothing to report. That is, until he gets to the gorse bushes by the terrace. Aphids seem to have made themselves at home and are reproducing rapidly. John believes their mere presence means a grand-scale invasion is just around the corner. If a few dozen are allowed today, total takeover is almost certain within a week. That is not an option. Too bad for the innocent bystanders, spiders included. John rushes off to get his favourite insecticide. On the other side of the house, Chris takes a walk around his property. He loves exploring the ecosystems of the pond he built last year. A few frogs have already made themselves comfortable. He is most proud of the small harvest mouse colony, his favourite animal, located in the tall grass near the pond. Just imagine, this is Europe's smallest rodent. These mice are not here by chance. Chris put them here after raising them himself with great care. These tiny mice have become increasingly rare with the development of large crop fields. Chris plans to release a few near the house in agricultural zones where their presence has all but disappeared. And how is the pond itself doing? Uh-oh, it's infected with mosquito larvae. If no preventative action is taken, all these larvae will evolve and eventually become fully grown adult mosquitoes. And then you can say goodbye to those relaxing meals beneath the walnut tree. Next weekend, Chris will introduce some powerful predators to eliminate the larvae. For now, he needs to concentrate on the laburnum on the terrace. The shrub is suffering. The laburnum is covered by large clusters of black aphids, which are constantly draining the sap. It's time to give the tree a hand. To protect the small tree, Chris will employ the biological control method, the introduction of creatures who love to feast on aphids. Time to place an internet order from a special supplier. We'll check back in 48 hours. "50 meters away, John is armed with his chemical sprayer and is heading towards the area to be treated. He sees himself as a practical war commander, treating in high doses and going above and beyond the perimeter of the actual war zone. That certainly means higher collateral damage, but John believes it's an unavoidable part in the nature of war. Two days later, as soon as the mailman arrives, Chris rushes to the mailbox to collect his special internet order, destined for use in biological control. A simple fabric envelope that's filled with popcorn. The order may seem strange, but the popcorn is simply a vessel for transporting hundreds of aphid super predators. And now, after a 48-hour-long postal journey, they are starving. Destination: the laburnum on the terrace. In the following minutes, the first super predators, which are none other than ladybug larvae, start their journey towards the exit, in search of the feast to come. Just like their parents, these larvae were born aphid eaters. Some of them can eat up to 100 aphids a day. The maths is simple. The 100 larvae in the packet will save the laburnum from 10,000 aphids a day. It's 8 p.m. It hasn't been a hot day, and the snails are already out and on the attack, munching away at the cabbage plants. Luckily, their damage is limited, thanks in part to a special night guard that regularly does rounds to maintain order. In the garden, this young patroller always completes his rounds in the same way, going from the lettuce to the melons. Then he heads to the green peas, until he finally gets to the cabbage. There, he takes a break and hides out until night falls. His duty is to find and eliminate a maximum number of cabbage pests. There's a shortage of slugs this year, so he's focused on the snails. Friend of the cabbage plant, and thus of the gardener, the hedgehog is a great asset to any garden. And as long as he stays in Chris and Martha's garden, he is safe. At that very moment, a strange phenomenon is taking place in the grass in front of the house. Dozens of ugly, hairy monsters rise from the earth. These strange moths have just emerged from their underground cocoons, which means that dozens of caterpillars had previously buried themselves in this very spot. This can only be the pine processionary. It moved in exactly 3 months ago, at the very start of spring. After 24 hours of wandering from one lawn to another, some 80 caterpillars decided to bury themselves in front of Chris and Martha's kitchen to carry out their metamorphosis. Chris didn't even notice. Humans hate these caterpillars. Not only do they destroy entire pine forests by devouring their leaves, but they also sting painfully. The smallest contact results in very unpleasant burns. The moths born tonight from these caterpillars don't sting. They're getting ready for their moment in the limelight. After a brief mating period, the females fly to the nearby pine trees to lay their eggs. The small pine tree planted by Chris last year, along with those in John's garden, will be targeted first by the females. Camouflaged by a coat of golden scales, the moth eggs are difficult to detect. We'll be back in a month for the caterpillar's birth and their first attack on the pines. This morning, John is happy. His garden is beautiful, not an aphid in sight. Until he discovers that the boxwood he planted last autumn is in dire straits. Dozens of boxwood moth caterpillars are to blame. They've infiltrated every branch. Some leaves have been entirely consumed. John is just as sad for his boxwood as he is angry at the caterpillars. The general use insecticide in the green container will once again serve as his weapon of choice. In angry haste, John suddenly begins spraying the neighbouring plants as well, all in the name of prevention. But apart from killing dozens of innocent insects, his act is useless. The boxwood moth caterpillars only live in the boxwood branches. In the hours following the chemical attack, the caterpillars suffer a range of neurological symptoms before dying, one after another. On the other side of the house, Martha's boxwood is also being attacked by caterpillars, but hers is bigger and the harm barely visible from the outside. The gardener didn't even notice. Either way, these caterpillars have barely begun their damage. Their second attack of the season will take place in 2 weeks' time. It is 8 a.m. and a handful of the harvest mice Chris raised are now off and heading for their greatest adventure, freedom. The countryside view is magnificent. They experience extraordinary interactions. To the harvest mouse, humans are not the only giants of the world. There are also cows. But Chris is not a poet, and he has work to do. Here, a mere 100 metres from the house, he finds a small cluster of tall grass on the edge of a wheat field that seems ideal for releasing a few of his protégés. Large crop fields, like those that border the east side of the priory, are treated with chemical herbicides that leave almost no possibility for wild grasses, which are indispensable for harvest mice. This means they're disappearing from the countryside little by little. These small rodents are only found in places where nature's balance is upheld. Chris plans to reintroduce small groups of the mice in areas where they no longer exist naturally. This is the first attempt by our amateur environmentalist. As any good father would, Chris prepares 3 mini temporary shelters for his protégés and fills them with a double ration of food supply. The time has come for them to discover their freedom. For the first time in their lives, these small mice will breathe the open outdoor air of the countryside. But this much space can be overwhelming when one only knows the glass limits of a terrarium. A retreat to their individual shelters reassures them, especially because free meals are included. And then, driven by a desire to conquer the world, the mice take off to discover the countryside, one after another. The most daring mice make their way to the edge of the wheat field. A few minutes later, the harvest mice discover the best part about the wheat field. To them, it's an open-air restaurant where service is free and food infinite. Should we worry about the crops? Absolutely not. The harvest mice keep to the edges of the fields, and their level of consumption is insignificant. Farmers never even notice their presence. Will the area that Chris chose for their reintroduction work well for the mice? We'll check back in 2 weeks. This evening, the second wave of attacks from the box tree moths begins to unfurl in the priory's bushes. Dozens of moths are laying eggs on the branches. Hundreds of moth eggs are already coating the leaves of Martha's box tree. If nothing is done, the destructive cycle will begin again. 3 days is all it takes for the eggs to hatch, releasing hundreds of caterpillars that will feed on the plant for 3 weeks, potentially destroying the bush that's already taken a beating. Martha, who noticed the first attack too late, is ready for action this time. To save her favourite bush, she's prepared for war with an alien invasion. These aliens are creatures that reproduce inside another body, and they willingly kill their hosts to do it. Ordered online, thousands of these alien creatures are introduced into the bush, hidden within a high-tech cardboard package. Two days later, the counterattack begins. These aliens are none other than the infamous micro-wasps that are part of the trichogramma tribe. They were specially selected in this case for the mortal attack they carry out against box tree moth eggs. 0.5 millimetre long at maturation, hundreds of these creatures emerge from their cocoons and explore the insides of the cardboard, seeking their exit. The invasion has officially begun. In just a few hours, hundreds and then thousands of wasps will explore the bush's leaves in search of eggs to take over. The female trichogramma seeks out the ideal location using her antenna, gets into position to lay, and then deposits her egg inside the moth's egg. They may be tiny, but they're incredibly efficient. Each female can infiltrate and destroy over 100 moth eggs. For the box tree moth, the next few weeks are a constant nightmare. The trichogramma alien larvae develop inside the moth eggs, which hatch to reveal new wasps instead of caterpillars. Before they can find new eggs to infect, the female aliens must deal with the advances from their male counterparts. Those are sex-obsessed as soon as they hatch. Their appetite is so strong that when they can't find additional females, they return to their birthplace to wait for a future mate in front of their crib. Regardless of how they get it done, Martha is delighted to see it's working and that her favourite box tree is regaining its strength. John, who knows nothing of the trichogramma technique, is doomed to treat his plants over and over again. This evening, the hedgehog on patrol heads towards the east side of its local territory, the chemical side of the fence. The area makes him nervous. The ground is too exposed. At any moment, he could be spotted by a dog or a human. He heads for John's cabbage patch to seek cover and wait for nightfall. But something here feels off. The cabbage leaves show no signs of snails. The explanation is simple. John hid poisonous mines amongst his cabbage plants. Each chemical mine contains a mortal dose of metaldehyde, a neurotoxin aimed at slugs and snails. They don't even have to swallow it. A simple contact from the outside is enough. A few minutes later, the first nervous symptoms begin. Death comes in a wave of foam, just a few hours later. The cabbage plants, like the gardener, don't mind at all, but our night guard risks death. The poison within a dying snail is still active and is transmissible to any creature that eats it, be it a hedgehog, a dog, or a cat. As soon as the weather permits, Chris and Martha eat lunch outside, between the walnut tree and the pond. Last weekend, Chris introduced two super predators into the water. They might not look very fearsome, but to the mosquito larvae, these small red fish are terminators. And yet, the couple's meal is still interrupted by mini vampires, surely coming from other water sources nearby. To counteract the mosquito curse, Martha decides to test a homemade trap that's synthetic chemical-free, obviously. Neither garlic nor crosses defend against these vampires. This trap requires simple chemistry, a sugar syrup to which Martha adds some beer yeast. The yeast transforms the sugar into alcohol, which then releases carbon dioxide into the air. This is the same gas we exhale with each breath, and mosquitoes can pick it up from over 50 meters away. That's how they hunt us down. Meanwhile, like every Saturday, John's friend Catherine arrives. Everything is going beautifully, until the first mosquito shows up. Today, there are dozens that want to take part, fascinated by the carbon dioxide emitted by Catherine and John. Catherine is a true city girl. She doesn't like the countryside unless she's as comfortable as she'd be in her own living room. The conditions for John's barbecue don't seem very promising. "100 meters away, on the edge of the wheat fields, the harvest mice are enjoying their third week of total freedom. Food is copious. They can help themselves to wheat whenever they want. But in 3 weeks' time, after the harvest, things will be more difficult. The colony will have to migrate towards nearby uncultivated land to survive. In the meantime, the enclave offered by the tall grass is like paradise. A young mother feasts among the wild grains before going into her nest to suckle her little ones, born 10 days ago. The sun is shining. It's 23 degrees Celsius, and a gentle breeze slowly rocks the stalks from side to side. But at 12:30, everything changes. Joe, the owner of the wheat field, shows up unannounced. Armed with a bait applicator, he begins an anti-vole treatment. The farmer looks for tunnel entries and then inserts the same poison seeds that John was using around his garden. Voles are big fans of grains, and in large numbers they can destroy an entire harvest. A few blue seeds are all it takes to kill a fully grown vole. Joe knows that the bait needs to be buried, but it's lunchtime and he's in a hurry. Dozens of seeds spill into the open air near the harvest mice den. At the moment, most of the colony is sleeping, but tonight, when they're the most active, the danger will be at its highest. Over by the pond, everything's going well, except that mosquitoes are still taking over mealtime. Yet the traps seem to be working. Once the little vampire enters the funnel, he's trapped in an atmosphere saturated with carbon dioxide and alcohol. Quickly exhausted and groggy, his tiny life ends, submerged in the juices of fermentation. Upon checking, Martha realizes that the carbon dioxide emitted by the sugar's fermentation must not be as attractive as that of our breath. Her homemade traps are just not catching enough mosquitoes to avoid getting stung during their picnic lunches. On the other side of the fence, Catherine made a huge mistake trying to handle the mosquitoes. What happened? Everything started with her second mosquito bite. She decided to fetch a mosquito coil inside, but when she couldn't find one, she came back a few minutes later with an extremely toxic smoke bomb, the kind normally meant for cockroaches or bedbugs, and which should only be used in an empty, hermetically sealed room. Just after lighting it, Catherine realised what she had done, but it was too late. Not wanting to lose face, she opted for discretion. John, busy extinguishing a sausage fire, didn't notice anything. When he returns to the table, the last trails of smoke have just disappeared. She just has to hide the last clue. Catherine's effort was a mistake in two ways. First, the bomb had no effect on the mosquitoes. They're already back for more. John, who attracts mosquitoes in large numbers, immediately pays the price. During the meal, which is hastily finished due to the discomfort, John gets at least 4 bites on his forearm. Second negative effect, the toxic cloud dispersed by the gusty wind killed dozens of small, innocent insects. In the garden, numerous ladybug larvae and other aphid eaters were annihilated. As soon as the barbecue is done, John mows the lawn. It's his Saturday routine, even if the grass hasn't grown. He loves it. He loves it so much, he completely forgets about his pine trees, where the pine processionary moth laid its eggs over 3 weeks earlier. The eggs recently hatched, and dozens of caterpillars were released. Caterpillars that Chris is now discovering on the other side of the house. His pine tree are home to 3 nests, each full of voracious one-week-old creatures. Young caterpillars always travel in single file. And they already have a monstrous appetite. Just this once, Chris is going to imitate John's technique by spraying. He will treat the armyworm with a targeted bacterial agent that is authorized for use on organic agriculture. His spray is a mix of water and Bacillus thuringiensis, which he purchased at his local garden centre. These toxic bacteria specifically target caterpillars. And by carefully only spraying the little tree, no other insects in the pine or its surroundings will be affected. Since on the surface, Chris's spray treatment seems similar to those commonly used by John, Chris decides to cross over into chemical territory with a suggestion. John is shocked when he discovers 2 nests full of caterpillars and dozens of destroyed leaves. He accepts Chris's Bacillus thuringiensis treatment, knowing if it doesn't work, he can always revert to his usual chemicals. The final verdict will come in exactly 48 hours. The same day, around 6 p.m, activity starts to pick up for the harvest mice living in the wheat field. That evening, 2 males and 1 female come across piles of the blue seeds. 3 lives are lost, and there are still over 50 baited traps within close reach. In agriculture, as in the home, any chemical treatment leads to collateral damage, and every act of negligence only makes it worse. Two days later, John returns to his pine trees and finds the caterpillars are no longer a threat. Perhaps it was the efficiency of the Bacillus thuringiensis or the fact that Martha's organic vegetables always look so lovely. Whatever the reason, John is inspired to tackle his mosquito problem without the use of chemicals. He is so proud of the powerful trap he purchased that he invites the neighbours over for an inaugural happy hour. John likes the idea of organic solutions as long as they are modern and they do the trick. His Darth Vader doesn't require a single drop of insecticide.
This is a bottle of propane. And this is where the gas comes out.
The trap exudes enough carbon dioxide to attract all the mosquitoes in the area.
This is the part that attracts the mosquitoes.
Once nearby, the little vampires are hypnotized by the molecules that are identical to those in our sweat and our breath. Before they realize they've been tricked, the mosquitoes are sucked into the net where they die.
And this is the net.
The trap is both clever and very effective. Chris and Martha are delighted to see John is finally open to eco-friendly gardening maintenance. The couple has long known about the risks of using toxic chemicals that pollute the garden's produce and kill thousands of innocent creatures. Every year, supported by their tiny insect teams of assistant gardeners, they carry out dozens of successful battles against the local pests. Over time, organic gardeners have discovered that the more wild animals they find in their gardens, the easier it is for nature to balance out their populations on its own. When these animal assistant gardeners are abundant, they naturally counteract the presence of garden pests. On the other hand, a sanitized garden like John's is like a desert, where no creatures work as assistant gardeners. Any pest who infiltrates the garden thus reproduces rapidly, leading to a vicious cycle of chemical treatments. In their organic garden, Chris and Martha have the pleasure of observing their own army of helpers throughout the year. Each participate in their own way, albeit sometimes modestly, in the natural takeover of the surrounding countryside.